Peter Greenberg's live global travel update is presented to you by Air Canada, connecting the world with more than 1,000 daily flights to 180 destinations and 6 continents.
Hi, everybody. Peter Greenberg here on this third Thursday of May, 2025 with our global travel update. Let's see how good your trivia is. Did you remember that music that we just played? First of all, let me tell you where we're coming from, and then maybe the music will make sense. We're coming from the Terranea Resort in Rancho Palos Verdes, California. And that music, I'm dating myself, I know, I admit it, comes from one of my all-time favorite shows when I was growing up on television. Of course, I was not growing up on television. I was growing up while watching television. Sea Hunt with Lloyd Bridges was filmed right here when this place used to be called Marine Land of the Pacific. I first came here when I was about 6 years old. My mom brought me. First time I ever saw a dolphin, among other things. It was an amazing property. It then basically failed in later years, was out of repair, abandoned, and then somebody got the smart idea to build this resort on an amazing piece of property overlooking the Pacific, and that's where we are today. Of course, lots of stuff to talk about today. I'm going to get all your questions in. But of course, today, it's supposed to be tomorrow, but it actually is today for reasons I'll explain. Begins the Memorial Day weekend, and of course, the unofficial kickoff to summer. On a given day in this country, on average, there are about 45,000 flights, takeoffs and landings. Today, Thursday, not Friday, there'll be 54,000. And that doesn't count the mess at Newark, which I'm going to get into. The FAA has announced they're asking the airlines. In fact, I'll take that back. They're telling the airlines. Last year they asked the airlines to voluntarily reduce their flight frequencies out of Newark into and out of. This year they told them they have to, and they're doing 15% flight cuts across the board, which is compounded by the problem of one of the runways at Newark being closed because of construction. It is a mess there, but let's not kid ourselves. It's been a mess at all the air traffic control centers for 40 years. Including where I am out here in California. You can't go to anyone and not have the same problems, although the Northeast corridor is basically, in terms of volume, terribly congested. Now, having said that, what does that mean to you? That 15% flight cut means you're going to see a lot of planes that may have nothing to do with Newark in your flight plans affecting you, because at what point in their itinerary every day, the planes either originate, terminate, or pass through Newark. And they're not going to do that, which means flight schedules get consolidated, planes get full, and you know what happens then? Ladies and gentlemen, the law of supply and demand, airline fares go up. Now, this weekend, 45.1 million Americans will be traveling, a lot of them by air. The TSA expects to screen a record number of travelers at security checkpoints, so it could get messy. And people are getting a head start, right? Seasonality out the window. A lot of people left yesterday and Tuesday, but they're all leaving today. 54,000 flights on today, Thursday alone. Okay, now, in the meantime, the problems with the FAA continue. The FAA has announced they've hired a lot of new controllers, training purposes, that their classes are now full through July of next year. But let's not kid ourselves. As good news as that may be, it doesn't mean that any of these people they hired will be working by next July. Why? It's a 2 to 3 year training program. It's a long time before they ever let anybody sit by themselves at a console and control airplanes. So the problems still exist. And all the money that they're throwing at this now, which, by the way, has been long overdue, doesn't change anything if they don't change how the money gets thrown at it. The federal procurement rules are ridiculous. They're antiquated, and they work against every kind of innovation you can imagine. If I wanted to put in new air traffic control equipment in today, assuming it was available, I couldn't do it because I have to go through the federal procurement rules, which means I got to get an RFP, I got to get an analysis, I've got to get other proposals in. I have to spend a lot of time in committee meetings that waste a lot of time. Then I got to get the budget from Congress. Then I got to get it allocated. Then I got to hope the supply chain isn't interrupted. And then I got to train people on how to use it before we ever implement it and install it. And then here it comes, by the time we install it, It's old generation equipment. This cycle has been repeated tragically for over 4, maybe even 5 decades. And until you change those rules, it doesn't matter what the Secretary of Transportation does. It's not going to change the basic problem. So we'll be watching that very carefully and very closely the days, weeks, months, and I'm sorry to say years ahead. Now, having said that, do I have concerns about flying? I don't. I will tell you why. Forgetting the fact that the controllers are excellent at their jobs, even though there are not enough of them, the avionics and technology that's carried in the cockpits of today's planes make the pilots their own controllers. They've got better technology in the air than the FAA controllers have on the ground. So is that the solution to the problem? No, but it helps us along the way while we solve the problem. So we will keep an eye out on that. But don't think for a minute that if they're just cutting 15% flights at Newark, it's going to make a difference in the long run. It won't, because Philadelphia will be involved, New York will be involved, and anytime you have a problem on the East Coast, it moves west very, very quickly. Same thing with weather problems. You shut down Newark, Kennedy, and LaGuardia because of snow in the winter, a lot of flights aren't operating in LA. So you can't think of it in terms of where you live. You have to think of it in terms of the entire geography that they have to play with. So we will be watching that very carefully. All right, now let's shift to my world. I should make this a regular feature of this show. Let's shift to the world of nickel and diming on parade, okay? There are hotels right now that are they're trying to sneak in fees and charges. And we're not talking about the dreaded resort fees. That's another issue we've talked about many times on this program. No, we're talking about other fees that they don't disclose, that they sneak in there, that are wrong, immoral, and probably illegal. Okay, how about the Staybridge Suites in Tulsa, Oklahoma? They're charging $4.99 a night for a security fee. What, you're paying for a guard? What message is that sending? Shouldn't your hotel be secure? Isn't that part of the rate that you're paying? Okay, that's number one. Okay, here's one. The Holiday Inn in Newton, Kansas. We all stayed there before, haven't we? They're charging $1.65 a night fee for what? Software processing. Okay, let me translate that for you. They're charging you $1.65 to check in, for the front desk clerk to like hit some strokes on the keyboard and give you a key. Ridiculous. All right. Then, and by the way, this is happening all over the place now. It's not just the Holiday Inn, but the Holiday Inn in Great Falls is charging you 4% just to check in using your credit card. I'm sorry, wrong, because it's also not disclosed. And finally, the one that makes no sense at all, here it comes, another Holiday Inn in Elko, Nevada, is charging, get ready, $12.45, sorry, $12.45, as if that makes a difference, a night for electricity. What's next? Water? Toilet paper? Look, for $12.45, they should fill the bathtub and throw a toaster in. Sorry. And they should be in it. Wrong and disputable charges. If the hotel does not disclose they're going to charge these fees when you make your reservation, and you only find out about it when you're checking out, assuming you did pay with a credit card, dispute the fee. Also write me, Peter@petergreenberg.com. These are battles we love to fight because you know what? This is an arrogance on the part of hotels, and it's insulting, it's insidious, and it's wrong. Okay. Speaking of insidious and wrong, I got two things that I'm going to share with you that'll give you an idea of what a change in presidential administrations means. Okay, here we go. On a lesser level, but it's indicating what's going on. A couple of years ago, the Department of Justice and the U.S. Department of Transportation sued Southwest Airlines, claiming they were intentionally publishing schedules that they could not physically ever operate, and they were misleading travelers. They physically couldn't fly those flights because of the way they were scheduled. And if you took a look at those schedules, you'd make the same conclusion. Okay, guess what happened? This week, the US DOT and the DOJ dropped the suit quietly against Southwest. They just don't want to pursue it, right? In the anti-regulatory mood of the Trump administration. But now let's get even more serious. Let's go back to the Boeing 737 MAX and the behavior of Boeing, which some might argue, and I would argue, was criminal, as they intentionally misled FAA inspectors about their flight management system called MCAS, which resulted in 2 crashes and the deaths of 346 people. In the first trial, the Justice Department agreed to a prosecution plea with the defense so that nobody at Boeing would go to jail. They'd pay a huge fine on the condition they wouldn't do that behavior again. Now, the families of the victims fought this. They wanted justice. They didn't get it. And the deal was approved. But guess what? Apparently, Boeing repeated that behavior. And in the days of the Biden administration, the Justice Department went after Boeing again and said, no, we're going back to trial. Boeing appealed, and a judge about 7 or 8 months ago ruled in the family's favor and said, yes, we're going to trial. We're going to stand trial on these criminal charges. Well, guess what? New administration, Boeing and the Justice Department have reached a deal now so that Boeing doesn't go to trial and they pay another fine. The families are opposed to this. By the way, knowing what I know about this case, I'm opposed to this, but it may not make a difference. It looks like this is going to get steamrolled. And the argument that's being made behind closed doors, I guarantee you, is Boeing should not have to do this because it's America's largest export company, and it would so hurt the economy if Boeing would go to, if certain Boeing officials would go to prison or be convicted, and what it would do to the economy. So there you have it. Two things that made me angry today: the Southwest deal and the Boeing deal. Now, that it's not yet concluded about Boeing. It is about Southwest, but it's not yet concluded about Boeing. But it's aiming, it's basically heading in that direction, and we will watch that as well. All right. In the last couple of weeks, I've been telling you about drops in incoming travel to the United States because of tariff and trade wars, immigration policy, not to mention the economy. That's still happening. I came back from London a couple of weeks ago, and everybody on the plane had their own row and coach. That'll tell you about the fact that there are empty seats. And there are a lot of empty seats right now. How do I know this? For the first time in my recent memory, American Airlines, to give you an example, is offering frequent flyer seats in coach for as little as 5,000 miles. When was that ever happening? They got a lot of seats to fill. Now, how long will that last? When we get to June, that's anybody's guess. Travel tends to be quite resilient. It's not political. People don't just want to travel. They need to travel. It's part of our DNA. But if you're a smart traveler, whether it's airfares, I told you how low they were recently. We've seen ads for $39 fares on Southwest. We've seen ads out of LA. Just one example from United for under $200 round trip on domestic flights. This won't last long, but it is going on right now, including those frequent flyer redemption opportunities, which we never, ever see. So check that out as well. And then last but not least, and I'm going to hold this up so I can read the whole thing. Senator Rick Scott in Florida. I mean, I'm sure this is a well-intentioned bill that he's introduced in Congress, but come on. He's introduced a flight delay bill. Here's what it's supposed to say. First of all, let me give you the name of the bill, and think about the fact that his staff probably stayed up late one night to come up with this definition or this name. It's called the Flight Act. What does the Flight Act stand for? FLIGHT. Frequent Logistics Information for Grounded and Held Travelers. Oh, stop it. We don't need a cute name. But what it's supposed to do is to enhance transparency for airline passengers who are delayed on the ground and require each airline to give you updates on what's going on every 15 minutes. Sounds good, doesn't it? That's garbage. I don't need updates every 15 minutes because the update is it's been delayed another 15 minutes. How much is that going to tell you? It doesn't tell you anything. Here's what everybody watching this needs to know. Anytime you're on a plane and they announce a delay, I don't care what the reason is. It could be weather, mechanical, they're missing a crew member, or who knows what. There's only one question you need to ask, and you should not stop asking it until you get the answer, because it's the answer that's going to give you your options. What time does the crew time out? At what point does this crew become illegal in terms of their duty time? Maybe they didn't start their flight on your flight. Maybe it's their fourth turn of the day. And if you don't get that answer, then you're really trapped and you're captive at that point because your options start evaporating. So we don't need that stinking bill. I'm sure it was well intended, but get rid of the title. Who needs that? What we do need is information in a rapid and correct manner that tells us the answer to that just one question. What time does the crew time out? If you don't get that answer, then you're not getting anything that's useful for you. All right. A couple of little housekeeping notes. That's right. Travel Detective Season 8 No, what am I talking about? Travel Detective Season 10 is on the air right now, and it's episode 6 that's airing right now on PBS. And also check your listings on your local stations for PBS, also on Amazon Prime, Apple TV, and YouTube TV. Here's the teaser.
This week on The Travel Detective, it's nestled in the central part of the Lone Star State. Small, distinctive towns with a rich history, a vibrant culture, great scenic views, and flavorful spirits. Let me share with you some of my hidden gems of Texas Hill Country. Plus, if you only want to visit countries where the citizens are happy, then there are some that you certainly want to avoid. We'll tell you which countries are the most miserable. And then, it may be the cruise industry's best kept secret. Hop on board as we set sail during the off-season. I'm Peter Greenberg. All this and more on the next edition of The Travel Detective on PBS. Check your local listings.
And again, Amazon Prime, Apple TV, and YouTube TV as well. Let's scroll up here and say hello to a couple of people. We'll start, of course, as we always do every week, with Jim and Harriet out of Richmond, Virginia. They're always numero uno. Sue's saying hi from Bellingham, Washington. Tayo's in Maryland today. Okay. Freya is watching from rainy but still beautiful and crowded Venice. Well, you know what? Crowded Venice in May tells you everything, right? Seasonalities go out the window. But I'd much rather be in Venice in May, even in the rain, than in July or August. Michael saying hi from Lima, Ohio. And I got the pronunciation right, Michael. Jonah saying hi from San Francisco. Tayo saying, do you feel flying in and out of DCA Reagan is better now, or is it at least? Yeah, it's better. Look, they had to ban the helicopter traffic. It was the one time that the NTSB made an urgent safety recommendation that the FAA actually acted on within like 3 days. That never happens. This time they had no choice. And yes, I fly to DCA all the time. It's a very convenient airport. The way I fly to Burbank in California, very convenient airport. Both airports suffer from traffic problems. In Burbank, it's private airplane traffic out of the Van Nuys Airport. Same thing in San Diego, by the way. And in Reagan, it's just the volume of traffic in a very confined area of restricted airspace. But you know what? I fly there all the time. I'm not worried. We still have to fix the air traffic control problems in general, but I will still fly there. Hello from Alabama, from Katrina. David says, hello from Hilton Garden Inn in Delaware County, Pennsylvania. Being in a hotel inspires is purely academic question. When a flight cancellation caused to not to arrive for a hotel one had booked, how accommodating are hotels these days, or should be, given often their 24-hour or more stipulations to cancel with no charge? Well, that's the problem. You didn't buy the hotel as part of an air hotel package. There are 2 individual reservations with 2 individual rules. But I'm a huge fan of something else. Let me guess. You made your hotel reservations online. You can't give me the name, first or last, of anybody who works at that hotel. If you want to book a hotel or an airline ticket, I mean, go ahead online to research. But I'm a huge fan, I've said this all the time, of the conversation. But in particular, when you're talking about a hotel, when you make that reservation, even if you do it online, call the hotel anyway. Speak to the MOD, the manager on duty. Introduce yourself. Establish a relationship. Say that you're looking forward to coming. And if you're going to be late, now you have somebody to talk to or text to let them know to hold the room. It's really as simple and as easy as that. But remember, if they don't know you're coming late, the room goes. Or how about this? How many times did you want to check out late, but didn't establish that relationship, and you get back to your room and you've been locked out because they key time it, right? Look, I won't tell you how to make your reservations, because if you want to still do it online, you can. I'm not a big fan of that, as you know. But I am going to tell you what to do once you do make that reservation. Establish a relationship with somebody at that hotel who has an email address or a phone number, so that you can basically protect yourself in the situation you just explained. All right, Evelyn saying hi from Denver. Linda's saying hi from Naples. Just returned yesterday from Paris and Istanbul. Amazing, as was Turkish Air. Yeah, and lots of Americans in both cities. How many of my watchers and listeners will be emailing me saying, is it safe to go to Europe? Do they all hate us now? They don't hate Americans. They may have a problem with American government policy, but they all love Americans. I'm overseas at least once every 10 days, as many of you know, and I haven't not encountered any anti-American feelings. Questions about our government, which, by the way, I have difficulty explaining, that's another story. But they're very happy to see us, first of all, because everybody likes each other. And second of all, let's not forget the economics and the power of travel as an economic driver, a job provider, et cetera. So no problem. All right. Here we go. Sharon saying hi from New York. Renu saying hi from California. Recommendation for one full day in Naples, Italy next month. Yeah, pizza. Just walk the city. I mean, that's exactly what we just did recently. I did it in Naples and I did it in Genoa. And it was spectacular and uncrowded at this time of the year. Okay. Patrick's saying hi from Palm Springs. Why aren't you on a cruise ship? He always says hi from a cruise ship. Bill's saying we're in Greeley, Colorado, a 3-week road trip. Cool. Take some photos and send them to us. Mindy's saying hi from Angels Camp in California. Sean's saying tuning in from La Quinta, California, heading to South Africa and Botswana in September. You're going to have a great time, especially in Botswana, the largest elephant herds you will ever see in your life along the Chobe River. Let us know how that goes. My old pal Mary Louise is in Tempe, Arizona. Hello, Mary Louise, and nice to talk to you. A couple of other things you want to talk about. People are always asking me, what should I always pack on my trip that you never want to leave home without? Now, I can't say that what I'm going to tell you is going to work for you, but I'm going to tell you what works for me. All right, this is what I always pack on every trip, starting with very strong Gorilla Tape. Why? It fixes everything. It seals everything. You might even use it for your luggage if something gets torn, but you'll be surprised at how many times you're going to go to that Gorilla Tape to solve your problem. Even if you break an eyeglass frame, I mean, it may not be pretty, but it'll still fit. That's number one. Here's an obvious one: extra AA batteries, a flashlight, right? And I admit this, it's it's not for me. It's for my wife. Big binder clips. Now, why would I travel with these big metal paper binder clips? Again, not for me. I can sleep anywhere. She wants darkness in the room. And so many hotels just can't get their act together with blinds and drapes that close all the way. Hence the binder clips. They come in handy. And last but not least, I have to admit this, I travel with more than one phone charger and more than one laptop charger. You know why? I'm always losing them because I travel so much. But that's just my backup. All right? That's what I travel with. And you'll let me know what you think. What do you guys travel with? All right. Let's keep going down here. Hold on. Mindy says, I've been to Terranea. Lovely. It is. It is. And we'll post some photos later on as well. Some other things to talk about, and that is a little known travel hack that airlines will not tell you about, but I will. And that is if you're booking a ticket with miles, let's say you're going from Los Angeles to London and you want to come home from Munich, it's the same amount of miles. But you have to get from London to Munich to be able to come home, right? That London to Munich flight, they'll throw in for free, right? It's a triangle. Check it out. It's a hidden city deal that you can use that's totally legal when you book your mileage ticket. For mileage, it works. Now, here's another little trick. And this just happened to me. I was flying from New York to London. It's coming up in a couple of weeks. And then a few days later, I needed to go from London to Los Angeles. I went in and took a look at 2 one-way tickets, because sometimes that's cheaper. Well, the one-way ticket from New York to London was pretty cool. It was like a $480. The one-way ticket from London to LA in coach, fasten your seatbelts, $3,000. So I canceled the first flight, went back in and booked it as a multi-city ticket, meaning New York to London, 3 days later, London to LA. The entire ticket cost dropped to $695. So play that game. This is where the internet can be helpful to you, so you can research on it, right? Don't always think that a round trip ticket is going to help you. Don't always think that a one-way ticket is going to help you. Try different things on for size, because in different markets with different inventory available on the airlines, the prices the algorithms go crazy, but those fares can get adjusted in your favor. And anybody paying $3,000 for a one-way ticket from London to Los Angeles needs to go into therapy anyway. So now that's a little tick there. Now, let's go to, another little housekeeping note. Housekeeping note, this weekend, our travel detective, not just on PBS, but our radio show, Eye on Travel on CBS, airs from Malta, one of the great locations for this summer, not to mention the rest of the year. So check your local listings. That's this Saturday from 10:05 a.m. to 1 p.m. Eastern time. If you can't find it in your market, and we're on 200 stations around the country, but if you can't, no problem. We always stream it live. Just go to our website, petergreenberg.com, and you'll see how to hit the button. Do it about 5 minutes after the hour, after the local stations are finished with their news and weather and traffic, and the show goes on the air then. Okay, now, yesterday I was in Salt Lake City, and I flew to Los Angeles to be able to be here at the Terranea and do our global travel update. I was on Delta. Now, what's my unique reason for wanting to fly Delta these days? I admit it. Biscoff Cookies. That's it. I'm not there for the rich Corinthian leather. I want the Biscoff Cookies. And I got one. I only got one. It's a full flight. But interesting statistic for you. In 2024, Delta gave out, are you ready? 60 million Biscoff cookies. And we did a little math. That's 1,687 tons of Biscoffs. Very popular cookie. Just wanted to tell you that. All right. Now let's go to some questions you guys already sent in earlier in the week. Terry says, Chase is offering 100,000 points for travel. Is this a lot? I'm assuming you're meaning they're offering 100,000 points for their credit card as a bonus. If that's the case, it is a lot. It's one of their best bonus offers ever, probably for the Chase Sapphire card, but let me know. Linda says, I'm from the States, and when I traveled to Europe last summer, my life changed. I tasted the best chocolate I've ever tasted, and I can never go back. The chocolate here does not hit the same as European chocolate. And the question she asks is, I feel crazy for wanting to travel specifically for chocolate. By the way, you're not crazy. But you only live once, right? Any recommendations for the best travel locations for chocolate foodie? Yes, I do. And if you think my answer is Switzerland, you're wrong. Do they make great chocolate in Switzerland? They do. But there's one country that does it even better. It's Belgium. Belgian chocolate is the home run. It is the home run. But we found great chocolate in some of the most unlikely places in the world. In Abu Dhabi. We found it in Franklin, Tennessee. We found it in Las Vegas at a company called Ethel M. Right? Ethel M, the last name, Ethel Mars, as in Mars candy. There was a split in the family. One family department went over to do, Snickers and Milky Ways. And Ethel started her own chocolate company, which is based in Las Vegas. They do a great job as well. We actually did a couple of funny pieces on chocolate on the Travel Detective. You'll see that this season about places where they make chocolate that are pretty cool. So I hope that's helpful to you. Let's keep going. Aaron says, me and a few friends have a trip planned to Paris this next week with a direct flight leaving tomorrow from O'Hare in the evening with Air France. However, we just received an email saying that we lost our seat assignments and that we would now have a layover in Detroit with a new flight. This is like the Sky Team, right? Air France and KLM and Delta. I can smell it. After hours on hold with customer service, there's an oxymoron, we find out that the plane had been overbooked and we now need to pay a fee, almost $1,000, to keep our seats on the original flight. Who told you this? Does this sound fishy? Yeah. I thought overbooking only happened the day of. No, that doesn't happen the day of. They have their own algorithms, but wait a second. You did nothing to cause this problem. You had a confirmed seat, right? You did have a confirmed seat. You had a confirmed reservation on a flight, which they then decided they're going to overbook and bump you and make you do a stop, which you didn't plan on, and then say, oh, by the way, but if you still want to go back to your original flight, it's going to cost you $1,000. Look, they either have the seats or they don't. I know you're leaving right away, but do me a favor. Email me, peter@petergreenberg.com. Send me your PNR. That's that six-digit and letter code. That's your confirmation number, right? PNR stands for passenger name record. And let's take a quick look at that. It makes absolutely no sense. And while I'm doing that, get back on the phone and explain to them that you didn't cause this cancellation. They did, number one. Number two, you had a bona fide reservation, and coming back to you after the fact to say, oh, you can go back on the original flight for $1,000 means they had the seat to begin with. No, they're not playing fair. Let me know. Okay, get me that information. Okay, Howard says, LGA or JFK, which would you rather? Well, depends on where you're going, right? There are no international flights from LGA other than Toronto and Montreal. And by the way, you clear U.S. Customs in Canada, which allows you to come back to LaGuardia, which has no customs facilities. But for domestic flights, very few flights from LaGuardia on domestic flights are nonstop. They do stops in Atlanta and Charlotte, Denver, and Chicago. But from a convenient point of view, since I live in Manhattan, my drive from where I live to LaGuardia is about 14 minutes. I'm going to take LaGuardia all the time. But if you're doing international flights, you don't have a choice. It's either Newark or Kennedy. And there you have it. All right. But from a convenience point of view, I like LaGuardia and always have. All right. Mark says, I'll be honeymooning in the south of France and Barcelona. Congratulations, Mark. Starting the first week of June. We are staying in Nice, Saint-Tropez, Barcelona, but doing day trips to Monaco, Ez. Get your hiking shoes on for Ez. You're going to be walking up hills. Provence and a few others. What's the best advice you can give someone visiting this area for the first time? Okay, you ready? MONEY. Bring it. They don't discount in Monaco. They don't discount in Ez. And they certainly don't discount in Saint-Tropez. But listen, you're only honeymooning once, right? Please say yes to that. Okay. So if that's the case, you know what? Go to Jimmy's in Saint-Tropez. Make believe you're a beautiful person, right? And you'll pay the money for it. In Monaco, you can go to all the hot restaurants, but you know what you want to do in Monaco? You want to go into the Hotel de Paris, to the American Cafe, just to be there. It's kind of fun. But then go across the street, and there's a cafe right across the street from the Hotel de Paris, and sit down there and order something that they don't have on the menu. Order a barbajoine. It's a Monegasque dish, and they will respect you for that. It's like a spinach quiche, and it's great. You'll have fun there. Of course, if you're in Monaco, and you mentioned Ez, it's the perfect hub for taking local trains to Villefranche or to Cannes or to Ez, and it's perfect. In Barcelona, you're going in June before it gets really crazy in tourism, but you know what? Get up early, go to Las Ramblas. Everybody likes to walk that street, and go to the Boqueria, the open air market, but then go in the back of the market. There's a little restaurant back there with about 8 stools. That's about it. It's called Bar Central. You're going to have to wait for your stool, but it's worth the wait because it's all fresh fish. You're looking right at it. You pick what you want, and they throw it on the grill. It's great. Those are just a few ideas, but then again, congratulations for you. Jeremy says, if you're hanging out in an airport lounge that isn't busy, yeah, good luck with that. Is there any etiquette around how long you stay? I'm laughing because every airport lounge right now is crowded and overcrowded. I have an American Express card, and I never use their Centurion Club. I went in there the other day just to check it out. And by the way, I was at the airport for a reason, to leave the airport, right? But I was changing planes. I had about an hour and a half layover. I went in there and they told me I could only stay for 30 minutes. Ridiculous. Okay? That's what they're doing now. By the way, on the Delta app, they can tell you if the lounge is even taking people in. That's how overcrowded they are. So you get to be disappointed before you get there. Isn't that lovely? But your question is, how long can you stay? As far as I'm concerned, stay as long as you like. You're a member. Membership has its privileges. Now, you're not moving in. You're not inviting everybody you've ever met with in your life. You're there for a reason, to have hopefully a quiet respite from the chaos in the terminal, maybe get some work done, try to avoid the bad hummus and maybe have a carrot. That's why you're there, and maybe Wi-Fi. You're not there for gourmet dining, although I will say that the Chase Sapphire clubs are doing a great job in the food department, and now Capital One is opening a series of Jose Andres restaurants. I can't wait to see what they're doing with the food there. But bottom line is, once you're in, stay there. Don't miss your flight, though. Okay? Cynthia says, I'm going to Malta for the first time in October. Any suggestions? Yeah. First of all, this allows me to give you a little plug for my show, Hidden Malta. It's going to air and premiere in September on PBS, Amazon, Apple TV, and YouTube. Malta is one of my favorite destinations. I've been going since 1982. I first went on a cruise ship, so I only saw it for a day, but that sparked everything for me. If you're going to go to Malta, go to all three islands. Go to Gozo and Camino. Take your time. Check out the olive oil in Gozo. Check out the handmade tiles throughout the island. You can also buy them. Of course, the hand-blown glass at Mdina, this amazing medieval town. You need to walk around. And of course, you've got to go in the St. John's Co-Cathedral. I have a rule about how many churches I will see on any trip. It's usually one because I want to take it all in. This one, I could stay a week. It's one of the most remarkable churches you will ever see. Baroque architecture, every inch of ceiling space and wall space is covered with amazing artwork. Each piece tells a story, but then you don't just look up and out. You got to look down. You're walking on 405 individual, beautiful, inlaid marble tombs of the Knights of Malta, and the inscriptions on each tomb tell you about all the exploits of each knight, one trying to outdo the other. It's amazing one-upsmanship. Spend some time in that cathedral. You'll be very happy you did. All right, that's just for starters. All right, let's keep going here. Rachel says, do you know how much it will be to check a bag on Southwest? Well, interesting that we're now at, May 22nd. Any reservation on Southwest made after May 28th, that's when you have to start paying for checked bags. My guess is it's going to be either $35 or $40 for the first bag and $35 or $40 for the second. So for a round trip checking in 2 bags, you just added $160 to your trip. So be aware of that, okay? D says, my son's plane arrives at Terminal 7. JFK's website says I can use the free weight lot or the cell phone lot. The free weight lot requires a ride on the AirTran. Well, wait a second. The free weight lot is for you to wait there until your son calls you on the cell phone and says, I've left customs, or I've left wherever he's coming from, what plane, and I'm at the arrivals area. Or if he's smarter, he'll go upstairs and you'll pick him up at departures. So you sit in your car at the weight lot till he texts you or calls you, and then guess what? Go pick him up. It's as simple as that. All right, let's go to the photo of the week. Now, watch this photo carefully. It's not just the Sydney Opera House, which goes back to 1974. And I know exactly where that photo was taken because I've taken the same photo, but not as good. Why? It's the clouds. Look how the clouds perfectly match the actual colors of the rest of the picture. Corky Bradley, congratulations. And she writes, we were down under in March, while in Sydney, the afternoon sky with the clouds made the lighting just perfect. I couldn't agree more. If you think you got a photo that qualifies for the photo of the week, you want to be up there with Cindy, here's what you do. Photo contest at petergreenberg.com. And if we agree, it goes right up there with Cindy's photo. All right, let me scroll down very quickly before we say goodbye. Randy's saying hi from Ann Arbor. Kim says, any recommendations for Nice, France? The same recommendations I made for honeymooning in Monaco. Take the train, go to Cannes, go to Monaco, do day trips, and you'll have a great time. All right. Boston Bob says, I'm celebrating my beating cancer. All right, Bob. By going on my first cruise September, departure from Seattle to Alaska on Celebrity Discovery. Don't have any tips for this first-time cruiser? I do. Here's what I want you to do because we're running short on time. Email me, Bob, peter@petergreenberg.com, and I'll help you out. All right. And by the way, we all send congratulations on that. Scott says, hi from Chicago. Reminder to everyone to remember why we have this weekend. You know what? Thank you for reminding us all. It's Memorial Day weekend for a reason. Yes, it's a holiday, but don't forget to celebrate, acknowledge, and remember the people who served our country. Thank you for that reminder, Scott. I much appreciate that. And by the way, we're out of time. Again, Eye on Travel, CBS, that's this Saturday, 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. Eastern, coming to you from Malta. And of course, Travel Detective Episode 6 of Season 10. You know where to find it now. PBS, Amazon Prime, Apple TV, and YouTube. You can always email me during the week, peter@petergreenberg.com. We'll try to answer your questions next week, where we'll be coming from another distant remote location somewhere around the world. Thanking the folks here at the Terranea Resort in Rancho. What? Thank you. A senior moment, ladies and gentlemen. Rancho Palos. Give it to me again. Thank you. I'm an idiot. Rancho Palos Verdes. Oh, it's been a long day. But it's a great resort. I want to thank everybody from there for helping us to do this show. Of course, Anthony doing the work here on the boards. We'll see you next week. In the meantime, have a great rest of your week. Remember who to remember on Memorial Day weekend. Thanks, everybody.
Peter Greenberg's live global travel update is presented to you by Air Canada, connecting the world with more than 1,000 daily flights to 180 destinations and 6 continents.